What's going on, guys? Fun with Knives back again. Got another knife review for you today. This is the CRKT Jesper Voxnaes designed Amicus. So this seems to be an ultra popular model this year, and one that's been really well accepted in the knife community as far as I've seen, and I've really enjoyed this knife so far, but there's a couple glaring issues I want to talk about. So I'll give you guys the specs and we'll get into this review here. Your blade length here is going to be 3 3/8 inches. Your handle length is going to be 4 3/4 inches, making your overall length 8 1/4 inches. So not a huge knife, but a good size one for EDC. Your blade thickness is a stocky 0.15 inches, and your handle thickness is right at 1/2 inch. Your weight though on this one is going to be almost 7 ounces at 6.76. So a lot of weight for this knife. And it's not a huge knife by any means. It's not, you know, a 9-inch long folder. We're right at around 8 inches, just a little bit over. So that weight was the first thing I noticed. I'm like, man, that's a heavy knife. But we'll get to that and why that is. So this blade here, I love the shape. I mean, there's nothing they could have done better with it. A full flat ground drop point, awesome. The steel on this one's going to be HCR 13 MOV. You can see Amicus Voxnaes design on it. 5445, and then CRKT logo. So very well done markings on the blade, simple, but it still gives you a little bit of information. Nice high satin finish on it. You can see that's reflecting light all over the place, and it does show your wear. You can see that there's some scrape marks on it already. You know, if I touch it, I'm going to get fingerprints all over it. Just kind of the nature of the beast when it comes to that. And when I saw the blade thickness on this, I was like, man, that's just too thick for this kind of knife, and it's really not, because this is a fairly wide drop point. It's got a nice belly, and there's a lot of ground for that grind to travel to come down to a nice keen edge. But that was the first issue that I saw, was this edge. The way this is sharpened, it seems like your secondary bevel, you can see where the light's hitting there, is very wide. Now I don't know if that's the design of this knife on purpose, but you can see the sharpening job that they did is just not on par. It looked like they scraped off some of the finish there. I know it's hard to see with the light reflecting everywhere, and the grind line is uneven. You can see it's a little bit wavy towards the tip, and I was really worried about the initial sharpness because those grind lines were just not on par. Like I said, they weren't what I was expecting for this price point of knife. So I tested the sharpness on it, did some simple tasks, and this knife is crazy sharp. So I don't know if they had a new guy doing the sharpening that day or what. He sent my knife sharp, but it wasn't the prettiest. So I was like, that's a little annoying. But moving on, your deployment here is going to be by this oval-shaped hole. Very simple and pretty quick. You can do it with your thumb. You can flick it out with your middle finger. It's very similar to the Spidey hole, same kind of openings. So I don't mind the hole whatsoever. I think it fits the knife perfectly. Nice symmetrical kind of shape when it's closed. And the one pleasant surprise about this is that the edges of that hole are not very sharp. You can see they're a little bit chamfered or something in there where it doesn't bite onto the skin of your thumb like some Spydercos will, or any knives with a hole that sometimes they don't finish that hole as well as they should. Your lock here is going to be a steel frame lock. Nice beefy one at that, hitting a little over 50%. But holy crap, is this thing solid. I was expecting a little bit of side-to-side play, and man, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing as far as blade play. You're riding on Teflon washers here, if I can get that in there. So your actions is smooth, but it's not the ball bearing smooth that we all you know expect and like from knives that look like this. And speaking to that point, I don't remember who I was watching. It might have been Epic Snuggle Bunny talking about this knife. I think the calling card to this knife is that it looks like a much more expensive knife. If someone were to show me the picture of this knife and not tell me anything about it, this looks like stonewashed titanium. This looks like it would be S35VN. It's a Voxnaes design, and this could easily be a $300 knife if they, you know, up the materials on it, and it really brings you some custom aspects of a knife with lower quality materials, those washers included. Now, the handle material here is steel that is stonewashed steel, and I think it's got some sort of acid etching or something to it where it gives it that deeper coloration than we're used to seeing in normal stonewash, and it looks awesome. This thing looks so cool in natural light, and man, I love the look of the handle. Now that being said, that is where all your weight comes from. Almost all of that 7 ounces is going to be in the handle, and you can see your balance point's way back there. So not that I care about the balance point in a folding knife, but just something to note. Got an external stop pin there, super simple. Chamfered edges on these though, so it's smooth in your hand, but there's no milling or design work in these at all. You do have an over travel stop in your lock bar there. You can see it on the inside, so you don't force that lock bar out too far. If you press it, it's only going to go over that far. So I love the design of the knife. I like Voxnaes as a designer. So that brings us to kind of the open construction of this. You have a small aluminum backspacer here, floats outside of the handle. Great jimping on it. I love everything about that design. A small lanyard hole here on the back. And this is meant to be used as some sort of a hammer, and I have used it, and it works awesome. Aluminum's fairly soft, so you can see that that's taken some abuse already. But I really do like how this jimping is aggressive. It grips you on the back because there's no jimping here on the top or anywhere else on the knife really to speak about, except these 3 lines in the lock bar to make it easier to access. But nice open construction, super simple, making this knife great for an outdoor kind of folding knife, I think. Very easy to clean. I mean, you can just kind of wash out everything in there. Super simple blade grind, blade scales. It's a simple design. Now that brings me to my other glaring issue, you guys might have saw it already, is the blade centering. And you might be saying, oh, you just need to tighten that pivot up a little bit because, I mean, you're almost scraping the scale here. This knife is as tightened as it can be. You can see there that the metal that the screws are made out of is extremely soft. I've taken this knife apart once and it almost stripped the screw, and I was very ginger with it. So I tightened it up. I threw a little bit of Loctite in there, and it hasn't given me any problems. I mean, it's not walking further towards that scale and scraping, but I mean, man, we're dangerously close. And you can definitely see on that tip, see how off that grind is. So blade centering and blade grind are not good on this Amicus. Everything else is great. Your pocket clip here, very simple, just kind of tension clip. You can reverse it to the other side, right hand carry only. Get about that much out of your pocket, maybe. Not bad. 3/4 of an inch or so, maybe half an inch. CRKT written on the clip, and it is stone washed as well. So guys, is this a good value? Is this a knife that I would recommend? Yes, but check it out first. Like my CRKT Jettison, this has a little bit of fit and finish issues. Not so bad as the Jettison did. In fact, I'm going to be keeping this knife because the philosophy of use for this knife to me is a beater knife. This is a knife that's going to take a lot of abuse because of that strong lock, because of the steel handle, and because of that thick, full flat ground blade. Everything about this knife screams beater to me, and not one that you're going to trash on just because it's cheap, but because it can take it. EDC knife, yeah, if you like your knives on the heavy side for a little bit more solid feeling in hand, then I definitely recommend it. Now, to me, is this a gentleman's carry knife? Nope. Too heavy, maybe a little bit big. Is this an outdoor kind of folding blade? Yeah, I've taken this on a couple hikes in addition to fixed blades and done some of the finer tasks with them, and it performs wonders. So I think the price point's right where it needs to be. You're going to be in the low to mid 30s, and I definitely think this knife is worth it. And if your knife comes centered up with a great sharpening grind on it, then you have one hell of a knife. I really do like the Amicus, and it seems like a lot of other people do too, because these things are selling like wildfire. I know they do have a partial serrated version, and they're going to come out, or they might have just came out with the smaller Amicus that's around a 3-inch blade and that has a G10 scale rather than 2 steel scales. So that's a very interesting one that I might be looking into. So thanks for watching, guys, as always, and make sure to have fun with your knives.